Well, I am Caitlin Jumper. I am your MC and host for this special live from the Junction Center with Emerson Day. Thank you so much to Emerson for being here. Thank you to Dolce Vita Pizzeria and Grill for the amazing food we've had tonight. Oh, it was a great spread of food, and everybody in the crowd is enjoying it. It's a fun time, so we're going to kick it off with just Emerson. I'm going to lead it out to you, and you can play our first song.
All right, let's do it. Storm calmer walks on water, miracle worker, the blind will see and the lame will walk. Wine from water, come out, Lazarus, get up, daughter. 5 + 2, 5,000 later, the deaf will hear, the mute will talk. Hung on a cross, stretched out wide, for my sins he was crucified. Laid in a grave, 2 days went by, but then on that third sunrise, he's a grave robber, devil stomper. Under his feet he'll stay forever. Grave robber, death defeater, hail King Jesus forever. Grave robber, resurrection power, freedom for the sinner, bread and living water for my thirsty soul. Hung on a cross, stretched out wide, for my sins he was crucified. He laid in a grave, 2 days went by, then on that third sunrise, he's a grave robber, devil stomper. Under his feet he'll stay forever. Grave robber, death defeater, hail King Jesus forever. Grave robber, devil must have thought he won after heaven's silence finally got him gone, but the battle wasn't finished. No, it wasn't. Come on. Then a breath broke the silence, then the sound of a lion echoed from hell to the heavens. The sun is risen. He's a grave robber, devil stomper. Under his feet he'll stay forever. Grave robber, death defeater, hail King Jesus forever. Grave robber, our God is robbed the grave. He's a grave robber. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Emerson. It was so nice to meet you, and I am so excited for you to be here and be in our area. And we're going to ask you a few questions because we want to kind of get to know you and your personality and the style of your music, too. Many of you might not know, but you grew up in Southern Maryland, and many of our listeners can relate. Tell us about your family and what it was like being on a farm and the chores that you did, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern Maryland, like she said, on a farm, but I actually have family in Pennsylvania, so I know like a little kind of a cultural thing you guys do up here. Do you guys say yins? Is that a thing up here? Yeah. So we say y'all where I'm from, growing up in Maryland, and yeah, it was a rural spot, and I grew up, I loved music. I was always playing and singing and writing, and it was always a part of my life, even as a little girl. But I also loved sports, and I played lacrosse growing up, and the two were kind of neck and neck for me, and so that kind of took precedent in my life for a while, playing sports and later pursuing a college career in athletics, and yeah, it was a great time down there. So.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of college, you have your degree in Homeland Security, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. But what made you decide to switch to music instead? What was the moment that pivoted for you?
Yeah, so I mean, naturally, Homeland Security and music, they just go hand in hand.
Oh yeah,
so.
they're almost identical.
Yeah, no, it was a total God thing, because ever since I was about 15 or 16 years old, I decided I wanted to go in law enforcement, and it was kind of my dream job. And so everything I did in college was preparing me to get that position. But in federal law enforcement, it actually takes a year from the time that, say, you accept the offer, to the time that you actually show up for training and accept the actual job. And so when I graduated, I had this whole year of just waiting around, basically, and God just started planting these little seeds that I was supposed to do music. And I was kind of like, but I don't do music, like not professionally, not as a career, like I would still write and I would still sing, but that was not on my radar. And for that entire year, I just felt the Holy Spirit nudging me, you're supposed to do music, you're supposed to do music. And I ran from that pretty hard, because I was like, I just paid money and got a degree in Homeland Security. Like I wasn't thinking music. But the call actually came, and they said, hey, we're ready for you to report to training. And leading up until that point, I had so much internal turmoil about that decision. And so when he got on the other end of the phone, he said, hey, we're ready for you to report. I said, thank you, but no thank you. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I had such peace the moment the words came out of my mouth that I knew that was where God wanted me, and that was where he had me, or wanted to have me. And I remember hanging up the phone and just going, okay, what now? I was kind of panicked for a second, but I was trusting, that God had a plan. But I took the long way around to get to here, per se, with music. I pursued music after that, but I didn't know the first thing about it. I didn't know anybody in the music industry, what I was doing, and I pursued secular music for a while. I was playing out, and it just seemed like it was uphill the whole way. And I think a lot of times when we try to force stuff, sometimes things are uphill. And my husband and I got married. We moved to North Carolina. That's where we live now. And I started leading worship at his home church. And I was leading worship one morning, and somebody actually came forward and knelt down at the altar and gave their life to Christ. And it was at that moment that it was so clear to me I was going about this all wrong, that really where God wanted me was in Christian music. And I started pursuing Christian music ever since that day. I never looked back. And God just started opening doors, just one after the other. And so I know that was a long answer for how we got here, but that was how we got from Homeland Security to here I am doing music.
It's great to see that kind of journey of where you were and where you've come, and how God has used you in that time. And I know from hearing your voice and hearing you play guitar, you got that kind of Southern rock, old church piano style kind of music, which I love. So what sparked your interest in that kind of style of music? And were there any, as you were kind of discovering your journey of being a Christian music artist, songs or artists that kind of influenced you into that style of music? Have you always felt drawn to that style of music, or anything that kind of moved you into that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Growing up, there were so many different musical influences, because on the way to school, my dad took my sister and I, and it was classic rock coming out of his radio. But then Mom picked us up from school, and it was country coming out of her radio. But we were a family that we grew up, we went to church every Sunday, and so there was also a lot of hymns and a lot of, Jesus in our life, and we listened to the Sandy Pattys and the Natalie Grants of that era. And so I'm kind of this melting pot of a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of country, but I love Jesus. And so I kind of meet in the middle on it. But some of my biggest inspirations, actually, I loved the band Leonard Skinner growing up, because that's what my dad listened to. And I know that's very contrary to what, a Christian artist would say, but it's a part of my story. It's a part of what influenced me. And then, as I got a little older, it was Chris Stapleton. And then as I got into Christian music, it was Zach Williams. And the more that, I pursued that angle, I really found my place in this space as that lane, that kind of melting pot of music. And so you're gonna hear a little bit of everything. But
That's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
we definitely want to hear a little bit of it. And I know you have a few songs you want to share with our listening and our live audience that have, See, I didn't even need to prompt you with my hands. I just had to say it and to speak it into action, all those fun things. So yeah, we'll let you take it away for a little bit and share some stories behind your song, which we love to hear.
Yeah, so this next song, I kind of gave you the backstory on the Homeland Security to music. But after I started pursuing Christian music, there was still this time of waiting. And for me, it helped grow my faith, but it also took the biggest toll on my faith initially, because I think anytime that we get a word from God and we start out, it's like, yes, we're like on fire. And at the end, when things come to fruition, it's like we're on fire, but it's in the middle where things get a little rocky sometime for us. And so I was kind of in this place of doubt, if I'm being honest, and kind of just like searching for encouragement. And this song is kind of from that place. And I always lived off of this verse for a long time, Jeremiah 29:11. And it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, not to harm you, but to give you a hope and a future." And that was kind of like a staple verse for me for a long time. And the thing about it, though, is I never knew where the promise actually came from. And so I did some digging in the scriptures. And at the time, Israel was actually taken into captivity in Babylon. And it was one of the darkest times of their lives. They were captives. In Jeremiah 29:10, that I had never read this, but Jeremiah 29:10 says, "For after 70 years of Babylon has been completed, then I will take you from this place." 29:11, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, not to harm you, but to prosper you, to give you a hope and a future." And the weight of where the promise came from was really what inspired my heart and uplifted me, that just because we decide to follow God, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't guarantee us that we're not going to struggle, that we're going to go through seasons that are dark. But you have to go through the darkness in order to get to the light. And we had to have that cross in order to get to the empty grave. And so that is what inspired this next song. It's called "Middle of a Miracle." Standing in the middle of the wreckage with nothing left, and there's no way of knowing what comes next. You're crying out for answers, 'cause you never guessed that you would be here, that it would look like this. And you're trying to hold it all together with your own two hands. And he's telling you to let it go and let him in. You don't see it, but you're right in the middle of a miracle. You can't feel it, but under your feet new roots are taking hold. Don't forget that with God all things are possible. Doesn't matter if it's broken or just ashes, there's hope. You're right in the middle of a miracle. Before the prison chains ever broke, there was a captive. Before 5,000 were fed, there was just one basket. If there was ever gonna be light, there had to be darkness. Before there was ever an empty tomb, there was a cross first. You don't see it, but you're right in the middle of a miracle. You can't feel it, but under your feet new roots are taking hold. Don't forget that with God all things are possible. Doesn't matter if it's broken or just ashes, there's hope. You're right in the middle of a miracle. 'cause you have a future, 'cause he has a plan. I promise he's got you. You're still in his hands. You have a future, 'cause he has a plan. I promise he's got you. You're still in his hands. You don't see it, but you're right in the middle of a miracle. You can't feel it, but under your feet the roots are taking hold. Don't forget that with God all things are possible. Doesn't matter if it's broken or just ashes, there's hope. You're right in the middle of a miracle. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This is really cool. This is like really cool. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you guys. And I'm excited for, this is just going to be a fun night. But I got one more song that I want to play for you guys. And it was the same kind of season that inspired this, but it came out a little differently this time. This song came out a little more like an anthem. And I think a lot of times the only way to grow your faith is to have it tested. And so I felt like this entire season of pursuing music really was just one big faith check after another. Like instead of a gut check, it was just one big faith check of following in obedience after God. And not saying I have it all figured out, by the way, let me just say that. But, it takes a daily effort on my part. And so as I was going through that, I got discouraged when I just felt like things weren't happening on my timeline. And so because of that, like I started to get really discouraged. And I was at church one Sunday and our pastor was talking about something completely different. I couldn't tell you, but he did this thing where he like checked his pulse and he said, yep, like I'm still here. Like it's a good day. And I thought, you know what? There's a song in there. Because what I realized is like, if I'm still here, God can use me. God will use me. Until I leave this earth and he calls me home, God is still working out the plan for my life and he's still going to use me, no matter how inadequate I feel. Because at the time, I was looking at my music resume and none of it adds up, not a single bit of it. But God is the resume. And it's not that I was ill-equipped, because I think the cliche is God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And it's totally true. And so I came home and I was discouraged, but I remembered that little, check the pulse thing. And I was actually walking in my mailbox and I heard this, God ain't finished yet. And I was like, man, that feels good. That feels good. I was walking in the mailbox, checked the mail, and I heard it again, like, God ain't finished yet. And I was like, that's a song. That's a song. And so I walked into my house, I sat down with the guitar, and I started writing this. And what I found is that it is really hard to doubt and be discouraged when I was singing at the top of my lungs, God ain't finished yet. And so that's how this next song came about. And if you guys know it, you can help me sing along. This is God Ain't Finished Yet. It's a dead-end road when I thought I was on my way. It's shattered plans when I thought dreams were being made. But I know where I stand, Lord. I trust your plan, Lord. It's all in your hands, Lord. If I'm still here, then you're not done. This ain't how the story ends. I got a hope, a future, a purpose. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. I'll stand on the promises. For my good, he's always working. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. No, God ain't finished yet. Long as this heart, it's still beating. The work that you started in me, you will complete it. So I know where I stand, Lord. I trust your plan, Lord. It's all in your hands, Lord. If I'm still here, then you're not done. This ain't how the story ends. I got a hope, a future, a purpose. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. I'll stand on the promises. For my good, He's always working. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. He's still moving. He's still doing what He does. And I believe it'll be so, so good. He's still moving. He's still doing what He does. And I believe it'll be so, so good. Yeah. This ain't how the story ends. I got a hope, a future, a purpose. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. I stand on the promises. For my good, He's always working. I woke up and I'm breathing again. So God ain't finished yet. And no, God ain't finished yet. God ain't finished yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Emerson.
Thank you.
Emerson Day, everybody. Wow, this has been a fun time. It's been so great getting to know you, your songs, your ministry, and what you're doing, and we're excited for your journey and to be a part of it. Thank you so much to our amazing live studio audience here at the Junction Center. And also to Dolce Vita Pizzeria and Grill in Quarryville for providing this amazing, and I mean amazing dinner tonight. Yes. So, and I would like to say a big shout out to our amazing staff here at WJTL who put all of this together. So it is great to be here with all of you, and thank you so much. And I'm Caitlin Jumper, and I am going to send it back to the studio with Lisa to get you back to the music and all of the other fun things. Lisa, take it away.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Emerson Day. What a great mini concert, and thanks so much, too, for tuning in.